Hello, my name is Taylor Torres. I'm the coordinator of special projects here at UNT within the Division of Student Affairs. And I am so excited to get to talk to you a little bit about how to create an event plan for your different student org events that you're planning. So before I jump into talking about it, I just wanted to frame our conversation as well as introduce myself. You might be thinking, okay, why is this person credible? How does she know what she's talking about? Well, as coordinator of special projects, I have the opportunity to work with a couple of student groups. I work with students who've experienced the foster care system, as well as students who graduated from an early college high school. And through that, I plan several events to connect them with resources, as well as with other fellow students. I plan large events, including the Distinguished Lecture Series, which brings prominent speakers to campus, has them speak on a topic for an hour, and then includes a VIP reception afterwards. I also advise two different student organizations, so I help them as they're planning and executing their events and support them in thinking through the details they need to consider. And newly, I am a new wedding planner, so that's kind of my newest development. I'm doing that on the side, helping couples plan and coordinate their weddings. I have been planning events since 2015 when I was a student. And when I had my first student org leadership position, and I remember I was planning events for my sorority and was planning them for like 200 plus people. And it was very scary starting out, and I didn't know exactly what I was doing. So it's been a lot of trial and error, and I'm hoping that I can share a few tips and tricks with you so that you feel confident in your event planning process. So there's a few things that I'm going to reference throughout this, and there should be some attachments that you can pull up to look at it. But the first thing is an event planning worksheet. It has 3 big boxes on it. And my hope is that while I'm talking about different things throughout this, you can reference this page and start to think through how you would fill this out for a sample event or for an event that you're actually planning for your student org. I'll also send you with another fun little guide. It's called the Sample Event Planning Guide, and it gives you some popular questions and things to think through, details to think through as you're planning the different aspects of your event. So my hope is that if you don't know where to start, you can start with these 2 different little worksheets. So before we jump in, I will pull up my screen, my PowerPoint. Creating an event plan. And I always like to know why I'm doing something. So for the why behind you listening to this presentation, I want us to think through why it would be important to create an event plan. And a couple of reasons that I came up with are, one, if you don't have an event plan, your event is either not going to happen or it's more likely to fail. Without planning, there is a higher likelihood that you'll feel more stressed at the event, or you might feel like you don't have all the details down, or you might have forgotten some details. And then the third reason that I gave is, as a student organization leader, planning an event well and with confidence helps give your members confidence in following your leadership. So you can plan an event with the goal of being seen as a better leader. And I think that that's a great why behind this conversation and this presentation. So hopefully you can get some stuff out of it. Here's kind of an overview of what we'll talk about. We are going to talk about, when you're looking and planning an event, looking at the 10,000 foot view. So high level view. Then we'll dive into the nitty gritty and the specifics and the details. Next, we'll talk about the what ifs, how to navigate the what ifs. We won't practice together, but I do have some practice scenarios that I'll give you that you can download and use to help think through how you would plan a sample event. And then there won't be any questions because you won't be watching this live, but if you have questions, I will provide my contact information, and I would love to have you reach out if you have any of those. All right, so we are going to plan an event, and when we're starting to plan an event, we need to look at the 10,000 foot view. We're really answering kind of those who, what, when, where, why, and how questions but I feel like it's important that we do it in a specific order. So I listed why first, because this is the most important aspect of this. If your organization charter says that you have to have bi-weekly meetings, but y'all are talking about nothing in your meetings, or people aren't coming anymore to your meetings because they don't find them engaging or don't see the need to be there, it might be time to reevaluate if you really need meetings that frequently. So think about why you would spend time planning the event. What is the purpose of that event? What do you want your members to walk away with? Do you want them to come and build community? Are you having them come to share information with them? It could be that you're doing a fundraiser and you're growing your funding, or maybe you're celebrating something, or you're just having an event to serve the community. So that's the why. And the what, I'll skip down to the who. The who, for a student organization, this could be an internal event. This could just be serving your members. You might know exactly who's going to come because you have a set number of members, especially if you have interviews for members to be admitted to that organization. It could be that you have no idea who's going to show up and you're marketing it widely and it's open to all. It could be an external event. So that could be like a fundraiser or a collaboration with another organization. You also just want to think through the who as it relates to who's involved in the process and in the planning process. So you might be making a decision with several opinionated people and on a team, and you need to think through who should have a voice as you're planning this event, and then how do we include their voice and combine all of these different voices together. The what seems kind of straightforward. The what is an event, but you can think through, is it a student organization meeting? Is it a fundraising event? Is it a social? Is it a collaboration with another student organization? Is it just for your new members? Is it a recruitment event? So there's a lot of ways that the what can differ. And I think that your why and your who impact the what as well. Next is when. So a lot of this might be, when and where might be determined by your event safety form, because they're going to assign you to a location for this. But I think it's important to think through when you're going to have this event and when your members or the people that you are hoping will come to the event are most available. Are students available at 8 a.m.? Are they available on a Wednesday at 9 a.m.? Are they available Friday night at 8? It could differ depending on which students you're talking to. But you want to choose times where students are most likely to be free and able to come. And then you can also think through, how do you figure out what works for them? Or maybe you could send out a survey, or if you have a Teams message with everybody, you could say, like the night that works best for your schedule, or like all of the nights that work best for you. Your when will help you determine where the event will be. And your who will also help determine that. You will want to book a space that's going to be large enough to accommodate however many members you believe will come. And then the last thing that I'll talk about on this slide is the how. And I really feel like the how is a great bridge into what we're going to talk about next, which is the nitty gritty. So we kind of have to answer these big questions, this 10,000 foot view, the big picture view of an event as a whole before we can dive into the nitty gritty. But you'll notice that the nitty gritty details also inform that 10,000 foot view and might change it in some ways. So this is all about how you run an event. As a student org leader, you will need to fill out an event form, and that is just to help you as you're planning an event. It can help you think through some of those details, but it also lets UNT know if there's any risks involved and if there's any need for extra safety or extra precautions that you might need to follow depending on how many people are at your event and what types of things are present. So if you're like having an event where you're going to be serving alcohol, that's an extra risk where more precautions might be in place. So that's part of why they ask so many questions on the event form, is to help you really come up with a solid plan for your event. So that's one thing that you'll need to do, is fill out that event form. The sooner that you fill it out, the better. There's more room options for you, more locations available, and you're more likely to have your event approved if you do it sooner. Also related, your budget. You need to know how much money you can spend because that's going to limit and inform what you can do. If you have $200 total and you're trying to feed everybody a meal, you probably don't have money for a DJ or for the most expensive room rental or whatever that could look like for your organization. Think through what you're going to spend your budget on. What are the different allocations for your budget? Are you doing giveaways or some sort of competition with a prize at the end? Will there be food? Who's going to pay for it? Who's going to go and spend the money? How will they get reimbursed? Who has control over the money? Maybe it's your treasurer. And then what type of food and drinks? What type of food and drinks are allowed in that event space? So you also want to know kind of the regulations that surround that. I feel like I kind of covered food and drinks, but if you're going to feed people, you need to think through what those options will be for others, where you're going to get that food from, who will pick it up, who will be responsible for that. Activities and schedules. So think through, how do you want the room to be laid out in a way that fosters community, if that's what your goal is for your event. Or if you really are going to be sharing a lot of information, maybe you want them to be in rows so that they're more likely to listen like they would in a classroom. What you're going to be doing, what the schedule will be, will help inform what you want your room layout to be like. Maybe you don't want any seating. You want a really open floor plan because you're doing like a lot of team building exercises. And then sometimes rooms that you're placed in, they have no flexibility. It's like these tables and chairs are screwed into the floor, and so you're not moving them. So think through, how can you be creative with the events or with the activities you have planned for your event to still achieve the goal you're wanting to reach. As far as schedule goes, be realistic with how long it's going to take to do the different activities you want to do. That's going to set you up for success, and it will make it so that your members aren't mad at you so that you don't like run over a schedule and they said this was going to be a 30-minute meeting and now it's an hour-long meeting. That can lead to people feeling upset or disappointed or feeling like they can't trust your leadership. Next are RSVPs, invites, and a marketing plan. This is a really important aspect of event planning. If you are having an external event where it's not just your members who will be attending, or where your member number is variable, and you want to reach a larger audience, really start planning backwards from the event. If your event is 4 weeks from now, you need to make sure that your marketing is out ASAP. Maybe there's an RSVP that they need to fill out. Make sure that they fill that out within the next 2 weeks. And then you have your event numbers by at least a week before the event so that you can order food, you can print off enough programs, or you can prepare for the number of people that you'll have there. Think about how you'll remind guests about the event. How will they fill out that RSVP? Where is that going to be, and who's going to be in charge of it? For marketing, where are your members looking at? Or whoever you want to attend, where are those people taking in their information? Maybe they're in the union all day, every day. So a union marketing board would be the best way. Maybe they're on Twitter or TikTok. That might be a way to market your event. Be creative in the way that you market and try a lot of different things. When I'm marketing an event, I try to get it out to as many people as I can, and in different formats as well, so that they have a higher likelihood of seeing that event. Last thing that I'll talk about is delegation, teamwork, and facilitation. If you are kind of that point person for planning an event, it could be very likely that you need to delegate a lot of your work. You need to work together with a team, and you probably shouldn't be the facilitator for an event. If you're planning every aspect, it can be really difficult for you to execute the event and run the event at the same time. So as an example of this, I organized the Distinguished Lecture Series. Most recently, we had Sean White come to campus. And when he came to campus, I knew that he would need somebody to escort him to the different places he needed to go. I knew that we would need people counting the number of guests we had at the event, checking in our VIPs at a separate entrance, running the slideshow during the event, and somebody who's going to be the facilitator and asking those Q&A questions to Sean on the stage. I couldn't be all of those, and I didn't want to be any of those because I wanted to be that behind the scenes person that people could go to with the different questions that they had. If they were relying on me to, let's say, run the slides, I wouldn't be able to be present in setting up for the VIP reception or troubleshooting any issues that anybody faced. So if you are running the event, I highly recommend delegating different tasks leading up to the event and at the event, so that it can run smoothly and that you're not just like stressed and running around the whole time. Last thing that I'll kind of talk about with events is the what ifs. So I don't condone being an anxious person, but in these settings where you're planning an event, it's great to think through the what ifs. What if the event is outdoors and there's bad weather on the day of our event? Is this event accessible? What if it's not accessible? How do we make it more accessible for people? And in what ways is it limiting different groups from being able to participate in the event? What time do we need to arrive and set up? What time can we stay there afterwards cleaning up? Who do I have available that's going to help me set up and tear down afterwards? What extra supplies and materials might we need? When are we going to get those materials? How much do they cost? Who's going to be in charge of going to get those materials? So lots of moving parts, lots of things to think through with events. And that's why it can be great to kind of consider those what ifs, so that you're not caught off guard or surprised. I have an example with this supplies and materials. Last semester, I was working with a coworker to plan a little event. We were going to be painting canvas bags as kind of like a stress reliever activity and a way to meet other people, other students. Well, by the time my coworker sent me the list of what she needed and I could get on to order it, we did not receive the materials that we needed for the event until after the event was scheduled to happen. And so we pivoted, we did something else. We did like coloring pages and the students loved it and it was great. But it taught us a great lesson about what it means to plan ahead and how to make a more detailed supplies and materials list. Maybe you're going to have everybody fill out a survey. They probably aren't just like walking around carrying a pen unless they have their backpack, and then they might have a pen. But how can you set yourself up to have everything that a guest might not have at that event? Other little what ifs that I thought of could be, what if there's an upset member or a crisis happens during the event? What are the event protocols for when that occurs, or if that occurs, and who's going to be in charge if there is an emergency of some sort? So just good to think through, like all those worst case scenarios we don't want to imagine happening, but that absolutely could happen. So like I said, I did create a couple of scenarios, and I'll include those as attachments that you can open up and practice. One is about attending or planning an end of the year banquet for members, and just has you kind of think through some of those high level questions and then the more specific ones as well. And then the second scenario is planning a monthly meeting that will feature a guest speaker and how you would go about planning that event. So you're welcome to use those as sample events. I find that it's a lot less pressure to plan an event that's not actually happening, because if you miss some details, that's okay. And I'll include this slide and hold it up for just a little bit. If you have any questions about the event planning process, or if you just want to talk more about where to start with event planning, I'm more than happy to talk with you or to set something up and meet with you. My office is located on the 3rd floor of the Union in the First Generation Success Center. I would love to meet with you and talk more about events. I honestly kind of nerd out about them a little bit, and I'm happy to serve as a resource for you as you're planning different events to help instill confidence from your members in your leadership. So thanks for watching, and I hope to hear from you, and I hope that you go out there and plan really great events. Thanks.